Hello, everybody. Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America. Specific location yet to be disclosed. My name is Brian Engelman. This is Seahawk boy Mike Bara, and this is a brand new show called Strictly Football.
Right.
I do the Unhappy Hour sports show. I think you can see the logo somewhere in the background. Mm-hmm. Here, let's roll the logo. There's a short version of that. That was the extended version.
You need Blake to get you a little funky music for that clip, so we can add that. Yeah, then we need Blake for that.
Have you tried what we can do now in the new studio where we're talking about having music and adding music to the program? This is something that Blake and I did on today's show.
Yeah.
We put music in the background, and it just kind of gave the whole feeling, just kind of like you're hanging out in a bar somewhere and somebody's playing the jukebox.
Well, I hate the new interface, so you guys can go ahead and do that. I'm not doing it. I just want to be able to do what I used to be able to do, which is just pick the channels I want, add channels, delete channels, because what I do is I set up, when we do our show, I set up a new separate RTMP stream to the Rumble channel every episode. And that's how we figured out how to do it. And then you delete the old one. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to overwrite the old episode. I'm afraid if it goes to the same place, it will overwrite the previous Rumble episode. And Rumble's where I'm making a little bit of money. It's the only monetized. I mean, YouTube, you can forget about being monetized with all the controversial topics that we discuss on our various news show, on our 2 news shows, right? So,
that's for sure. And I'll talk to you offline to try to figure out what, like the RTMP, RMTP, whatever it is. I've tried it. I've had successes. I've through my cell phone, I can do a show where it's my phone looking at me, but to sit in the studio, I can't get it to stream through Restream. So I'll try to figure that out, and we'll see.
Hey, you let me know. you let me know if you get it figured out, because I just hate this new interface. Give me back the old one. It all made sense, and
I know I'm the same way. If I know how to pilot the controls, we don't need a revision. We don't need an update. I should always have the option to just keep going with what was working. If it ain't broke, please don't fix it. But
exactly.
Mike, you mentioned your other shows. Before we get started here, tell people about your other content. I know you've been doing a million things. You do lecturing, you write books, and you're on television, and you're doing multiple shows. Now you're doing a Seahawks themed show. So just tell everyone just about the scope of work that you're doing, because it's kind of all over the place, and I kind of love it that way.
Yeah, well, I do Real News Live with Mike and Jen on Mondays and Wednesdays. Jen is a remote viewer, and we talk about what's in the news, what's really happening, the financial turmoil that's taking place, the political turmoil that's taking place. That's our news show, and then I have a pure mainstream kind of news show, Toxically Masculine Tuesdays on Tuesday nights. That's about 9:00 Eastern. The other show is 1 Eastern on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then we do this Toxically Masculine Tuesdays with a bunch of other guys. And Brian, Brooks is going to be gone for 3 weeks, so we may need a fill in if you'd like to step in. You've been on the show before, and that's just where we talk about what's happening in politics from a realistic perspective, but we don't get into the woo-woo stuff, the aliens and the psychic reading and stuff that I'm known for on the other channels. And then I have Whiskey and Wisdom I do with the original Mark Z, and that is on Wednesday nights, where it will give you free dating advice, men and ladies. I will tell you how to get a mate, how to not get a mate if you don't want one, and how to handle your dating life better. That's a great show. It's just a bunch of guys sitting around smoking cigars and drinking whiskey, and just like we would be doing if we were in a bar here in Vegas. And then now I'm doing kind of on an ad hoc basis as it comes up, as issues come up. I got the Seahawk Boys TV channel on YouTube and on Rumble, and I just talk about football and the state of the Seahawks, which I'm optimistic, but I think it could be better. And I get a lot of heat for that from Seahawks fans who want to believe this team is good, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Speaking of that, how are your Browns doing? What's your outlook for the year?
And by the way, I hope you don't mind. I like to radically shift all of the camera angles. So navigate with it as best we can, and let me know if it's too annoying.
Right.
But my Cleveland Browns, I could talk about my Cleveland Browns for days. We're kind of excited. This might be the best, most balanced roster that we've had since 1999, after the team was returned when Art Modell yanked it away in 1996.
Yeah.
Taken to Baltimore. Remember that team, Mike? I don't. Here's the question I wanted to ask before I say too much. If I were to ask you to name a few things about the Cleveland Browns, about the franchise, about the history, if you, on the outside, what do you know about the current team? What do you know about our history? Like, what are a few things that jump to right at the top of your head when I mention our team? Because I could answer that as a Seahawks, like from the outside. I've followed different players over the years and different matchups and stuff.
Well, for me, Cleveland is the factory of sadness. It is just a place where nobody has ever won anything. I mean, you did win an NFL championship, I think, back when Jim Brown was playing in the mid-'60s. That's not a Super Bowl. You've never been to the Super Bowl. You've blown, you had good teams and blew chances. The John Elway thing, the drive, which I think is the most overrated fourth quarter drive in NFL history. I mean, basically, the Browns went into a prevent defense and did what they usually do when you played prevent defense, which is you prevent yourself from winning the game. Fumbles in the AFC Championship game, Ernest Biner, I remember that. And, I think when the team was rebuilt in 1999, just how many draft picks the Browns blew and how many that they could have had because I think it was in the it was 99 or 2000. Yeah, they had an offer up from the Chicago Bears for their entire draft, and they really could have built their roster there, and they didn't do it. They went with Tim Couch as the quarterback. How different would people look at the second edition of the Cleveland Browns if maybe they drafted Donovan McNabb instead of Tim Couch? It would have probably been a different history. And, then who was it? Courtney Brown was the number one pick in 2000. Just bad picks, bad organization. You had all those draft picks when you had Hugh Jackson there. By the way, I met or just briefly said hi to Hugh Jackson last year when the Super Bowl was here in Vegas. He was on Radio Row where I got to be interviewed by the great Tony Bruno. It was really a blast. And, Hugh Jackson screwed you guys, royally screwed you guys he passes on. He passed on many quarterbacks he could have taken. He could have had Patrick Mahomes. He could have had Josh Allen. Instead, he takes Myles Garrett. And I'm not saying Myles Garrett's not a great player, but he ain't a quarterback. And then he takes Baker Mayfield. Now, I personally love Baker. I think I would love to have Baker Mayfield as the Seahawks quarterback because I think we could seriously contend because the guy has an incredible competitive nature to him. He wants to win football games. And although he could be a bit erratic, he seems to have calmed down a little bit. But I mean, let's face it, he's not as good a quarterback as Mahomes or Josh Allen, or there's even another guy in there during that Hugh, is it Hugh Jackson? Do I have his name correct?
Well, you have Hugh Jackson, right? That he was our coach and that things did get wonky. And when we had Baker Mayfield, he wouldn't even start him to start the season for some reason. But it was, some of the GMs in and out. We had Mike Holmgren, we had Sashi Brown, a few different names rolling through there. And I would probably push back on Myles Garrett because he's not a quarterback, but he is a quarterback of perhaps the most talented defense in the league right now. And he did finally get his first MVP last year. So I think that's a little... Okay,
but I want to ask you again.
This is you from the outside, maybe not.
Yeah, and who would you rather have? Who would you rather have?
I'm super impressed by this, by the way. Good job.
Well, I'm just saying, who would you rather have? Myles Garrett, or I think it was 2018 they took Myles Garrett, right? 2017. Myles Garrett or Patrick Mahomes? Who would you rather have? Myles Garrett or Josh Allen? I think you have. See, I'm like you. I'm a big believer. You have to have the quarterback. The days where the average quarterback is going to win you a Super Bowl, the Nick Foles, the Trent Dilfer, the Joe Flacco, because the rest of the team is so great, it's really hard to build and maintain and hold on to a great overall roster. And I think the easiest path to Super Bowls these days is to get the elite franchise quarterback. And Deshaun Watson has that talent. He has demonstrated that he is that player. He's won big games at the college level, but he got himself into all kinds of trouble. He's had a lot of injuries. We'll see if you guys have that. But I mean, I think you go quarterback first. And I remember Hugh did state clearly that, oh no, the Seahawks did not offer Russell Wilson to us in 2018. I think it would have been great for both teams if they had, quite honestly, because the Seahawks might have taken Josh Allen, but who is not better than Russell Wilson, by the way. I would not take peak Josh Allen over peak Russell Wilson, but I would take
peak Russ was awesome. Peak Russ was,
yeah, I mean, Hall of Famer all the way.
Were great. I thought, I mean, that was a nice thing until it wasn't. That was actually the most stable thing in the league, it seemed like. You had a young quarterback with Russ.
Right.
You had Pete Carroll kind of coming into his own, finally figuring it all out. Even got a champion. Like, you'd done it all. You guys were, when you drafted DK Metcalf, I remember I got a king's ransom when I traded him in my dynasty league, because I'm like, he couldn't have landed in a better spot. Like, that franchise is set for 10 years. And then it was
they
like,
got rid of Russ. Yeah.
Everything he got injured, and then he wasn't the same player. Then they got rid of Pete. They're just like,
I think that the injury definitely affected him for that second half of the season. I mean, look, this is a guy who's ultra competitive. He came back from the finger injury. He couldn't grip the ball properly. It affected him for the second half of that Seahawks season and the entire next year in Denver. I think last year he was much more effective. I mean, you look at his stats: 26 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. I watched a lot of Broncos games. He had 2 other touchdown passes that were dropped, 2 others that were called back on ridiculous penalties. He should have had like a 30-8 touchdown to interception ratio, and threw for over 3,000 yards and had a 98 quarterback rating, passer rating, which I do consider passer rating a real stat and a much more significant stat than a lot of these phony metrics they've come up with now. These
I think I saw Baker Mayfield with a perfect passer rating last year in a game, right?
Yeah,
Baker,
but
like you said, settling down with Baker, I think he had a perfect passer rating in a game.
And the thing is, look,
QBR or passer rating, I forget which metric, but
QBR is shit. Let's face it, QBR is BS, right? It's a terrible evaluation process. I will say this about passer rating: I have never seen a guy have a terrible game and have a great passer rating, and I've never seen a quarterback have a great game and a terrible passer rating. And QBR is all over the place. I think Charlie Batch or somebody like that has the greatest QBR game in history, and it's just nuts. He threw for 171 yards and an interception, and according to QBR, it's the best one ever, the best game ever. So nonsense. I guess I'm curious.
The stat I was trying to find was the Buccaneers' Baker Mayfield became the first opposing quarterback to post a perfect passer rating at Lambeau Field. Perfect passer rating. So I'm with you. I'm very happy to hear you say the Baker thing, because I took a ton of heat in the Unhappy Hour. We run private Facebook groups, and I mean, we've been active for 15 years roughly, just hammering the sports it's every day. We're talking every day in the Facebook app.
Right.
Baker Mayfield, he was one that got injured, and it just, a lot of things didn't work out, and it splintered the fan base when the GM and the coach who didn't draft him, it wasn't Ken Dorsey, or John Dorsey rather, who went up to Detroit, and he's doing well up there. But that really fractured the fan base, the Deshaun and Baker thing, and a lot of grumbling internally. But that's solved by winning, and the Browns were a playoff team last year. So, and that was with Joe Flacco throwing for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns. We saw that. Joe freaking Flacco went nuts for the Browns last year.
I did watch
your bingo card, did you?
No, I mean, I think everybody roots for the Browns in a sense. The Browns, the Bills, the Bengals, the Lions, the teams that have never made it. Nobody roots for the Cardinals. Even Cardinals fans don't root for the Cardinals. So you have these teams that have never had this bend to the pinnacle, and I'd like to see it happen. And so what is your quarterback situation? I mean, how do you evaluate who is it going to be? Deshaun Watson? Is he healthy? Who's going to be the starter on Sunday? And what do you think the outlook is?
Well, Deshaun Watson has had an up and down, uneven, healthy, unhealthy, able to perform / suspended. It's been a weird beginning. We're talking a 5-year contract that was given to this guy, 100% upfront, none of this backloaded. It was fully guaranteed. That was the part that people did not like to see, That's
Right.
not something the NFL wants to see given out, but we were so desperate. We either pay Baker top dollar or we go out and get the best thing we can. And it was like, well, Baker, we're not sold on Baker, especially at that price. We would have taken Baker at a slightly step back, but it just didn't work out that way. And so we were kind of stuck with 40% of this Deshaun Watson contract being wasted, half with injury, half with suspension. And then to me, it never struck me, not to be mean, but he never struck me as a super intelligent, bright guy. That's just on the outside. I'm not a super fan. I don't know him personally, and I'm not trying to be a dick here. I'm just saying that he didn't seem prepared for the season. He didn't grasp the offensive concepts. Now, that's not all on him, but he had a whole off season, and he wasn't allowed to participate in all of the coaching stuff with all of the two-a-days. When he was suspended, he had to stay away from the team. But you know what? Yeah. You hire someone as the team, you work him out privately, and every day for those 12 hours, you're going at it as if you were in that room. It just didn't look like he came out prepared, and I didn't like seeing that. And last year, he had I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say there was this one incident that's been reported that when they benched him, you know, and they knew his login to like Xbox Live, and instead of, you know, studying the playbook or the game plan for that week, he spent like 64 hours playing Xbox in the week preparing. So when he had to come into the game, because I think Flacco, whoever the substitute quarterback got injured, he came in and didn't really know what they were running or anything. So there is that maturity thing, but I do think getting cut, and I do think moving to the Rams, and these experiences have matured him a little bit. And while I think he was overdrafted as the number 1 overall pick, I think he was a first-round pick talent. And you know, I think maybe he's coming into his own in the right situation in Tampa. Let's wait and see.
Yeah, I think merging Deshaun Watson with Baker Mayfield there. Yeah, that was Baker up in Lambeau.
Sorry,
on Christmas Day.
As far as Deshaun goes, I mean, I have heard him in press conferences, and somebody asked him a question, and he goes, "Well, do you mean if they're running man over, one under coverage?" And, you know, just whipping out all the, you know, he goes, in which case I go to the line, and I'm supposed to read the safety, and if the safety's in a certain position, then I go to the mic. And I mean, he went back at this reporter, and he is really intelligent. But then you look at somebody like Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston has a photographic memory, right? The guy can, and intelligence is really just memory, being able to draw on stuff that you've been told. And
what is that in the computer world? That RAM or SDRAM or DRAM or something? The rapid access memory.
Well, the RNA. It's the RNA stuff. And, you know, Jameis Winston has a photographic memory, and he makes some of the stupidest decisions you'd ever want to see on a football field. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the quarterback situation is this. When Deshaun was healthy last year, we were playing okay. He wasn't lighting things up, but he wasn't making big mistakes either. He was kind of settling in. It felt like a learning curve still. Second season in, it still felt like he was feeling things out. But to be fair, Nick Chubb, the number 1 running back in the league, arguably when healthy, he was gone the whole season, so he wasn't there to help out. And Deshaun played a perfect half of football against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore in a very necessary game to make the playoff. And then he got injured. He got hit on a tackle, and he injured his shoulder. It got broken. He's been kind of off season, but now the story is that he has no limitations. And with Jerry Jeudy being added as wide receiver, on top of Amari Cooper, who's nothing if not steady, consequential, and a fantastic route runner, consummate professional. That's a great anchor to your team. Maybe it's not as flashy as Tyreek Hill, but maybe a fewer baby mamas as well, and a little less drama, a little less flash. So, I mean, what would you rather have? So, I mean, the emergence of David Njoku as an all-star, a massive man. You're living in Vegas. He looks like he was chiseled out at the Caesars Palace Forum shops.
Yeah, he does.
He just onto a football field. It's like, geez, he's finally come into his own. Dump it to him. Let him rumble, bumble, stumble down the field. He's a Pro Bowler. Just dump it to the right people and be smart. So the short answer is, if Deshaun Watson avoids making bad decisions, like early Baker Mayfield, trying to play hero ball, and our defense is so good, we're not going to give up a ton of big plays. So if you just don't screw up massively and make a pick six or something that really swings the momentum, just manage the game. There's so many weapons at your disposal.
Right.
Defense is going to do its job. Our kicking game with Hopkins solidified last year. He was one of the best place kickers in the league after that being a huge Achilles heel for us ever since we got rid of Phil Dawson, it seems like. But that's solidified. Our punter's solidified. This might be the most talented roster we've had since Modell stole our team. And let's go. This is a 2-time Coach of the Year with Kevin Stefanski. Prove it.
Yeah.
Let's go. We have Nick Chubb in his prime, Denzel Ward in his prime, Myles Garrett in his prime. This team is freaking stacked. Just do what you're able to do. That's how I would sum up.
Deshaun, the thing about Deshaun is he has played spectacularly at times. And if he can get to that consistent level, you guys really have something going. So you really do. And it'll be, it's something to really look forward to watch. And just also got to keep him out of those massage parlors. But
yes. And that whole story.
Since when did asking for a handy become a crime? I mean, people act like he committed a crime. No, he didn't. He just asked for a little happy ending,
Well, there were a lot of stories coming out saying there were a lot of consensual arrangements made from Instagram models.
They all were. I mean, a bunch of those women posted right after. They posted the day of the massage. Oh, I just massaged Deshaun Watson. It was so awesome. He was such a cool guy. And then as soon as they saw a chance to make money off the guy, they jumped right in and said he did this. He abused.
Some were invited back. Some had been back on multiple occasions. I think it was also reported that maybe once, twice, or 3 times, maybe at least once or twice, though, it was just a regular massage therapist that got creeped out and didn't know what they were walking into. I don't know. It's over. I really don't want to waste too much of my bandwidth on it. If I wasn't there,
a couple of weeks ago, I spent an evening with a couple of girls that do massage, and it's like pretty much every guy asks you for a happy ending. So what? Just say no, draw a boundary. I don't see any evidence that Deshaun Watson crossed those boundaries. When he was told no, apparently he accepted no. And the rest of that's just made up. So, and what's the big deal? The man's entitled to have a private life. Let's put it that way.
And there was that video that came out with him with Mia Khalifa as well. She was dunking on him at a basketball.
Yeah.
Hanging on the wall, or he dunked on her, or whatever it was.
He nailed Mia Khalifa back in her prime. So you got to say, Deshaun, you did good, buddy.
No, but it is interesting. We talk about this getting framed thing. Like there are Ray Rice incidents that we watch from elevator cameras in the hotel in the hallway, and you're going, all right, that was bad. You watch Kareem Hunt, and he winds up with his kick, and he peels back, and he still kicks, but it was 20% of the effort that he almost launched with. It was a bad look, not good, can't defend it, but it was bad.
Right.
But there's also the Trevor Bauer situation. I know this is a football show, but we're talking about people getting framed. This is a Cleveland guy who went on to win a Cy Young, and at the peak, he was accused of some stuff, and he wasn't just exonerated; he was proven to be set up and framed by people trying to extort him for money.
You never get that. You never really clear your name once these accusations get out there on the internet. You just never do, and it's really wrong because there's look. Whenever I hear one of these stories, it's like 50-50, unless you've got video of Ray Rice knocking your girl out.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, there's just as much chance that she's making this up to get money out of him as there is that he actually behaved like this. So you got to kind of throw it that way. So, all right, can I ask you, you're an AFC guy. I'm an NFC guy. How do you rank, just real quickly, without, your top 5, or let's go to the top 7 playoff teams in the AFC? Who do you think are your 7 playoff teams in the AFC? Obviously, your Browns are included in that. What would you think?
Well, let me see here. Let me switch over to, yes, I would definitely say that the Cleveland Browns are going to win the division. Let me say 2 things. I've been doing the Unhappy Hour for, like I said, almost a decade and a half.
Awesome.
So I'll give you 2 answers. Number 1 is my standard that I give you regardless of what our roster looks like. I think the Cleveland football fan base have been so snake bitten over the past several decades since 1964's championship. Of course, the 2 Elway back-to-back AFC championship losses that we could have easily won a Super Bowl in and didn't. And remember that team that was taken in 96. Ozzie Newsome is a director of player personnel. We had Bill Belichick as the coach. We had Nick Saban running our defense. Kirk Ferentz from Iowa. Like we were
good coaches and good front office.
This was about to be the premier coaching funnel pipeline in the entire league, and it was robbed from us. So my first answer is I believe the Cleveland Browns will go undefeated, 17-0 now. This will surpass the 72 Dolphins.
We all agree that everything was better when it was 16 games, 17 games. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants 18 games. Let's just go back to the 2007 rule book, where you can do blindside blocks and stuff on guys, and 16 game schedule, start on Labor Day, 3 games on Monday of Labor Day. Let's just make the NFL great again and do that and get Roger Goodell the hell out of the commissioner's chair. Can we just all agree on that?
Look, 17 is a weird number. There's nothing round about it. You don't split it into the middle point of the season being 8 games and 8 games. It's weird. I don't love having an extra game because it messes with the records. You just kind of different play, and you'll have to calculate for that as
well. And it becomes more of an injury league too, and they didn't do anything to increase the roster. So I guess I'd be okay with 17 or 18 games. Actually, I'm not okay with it. I hate it. I want 16 games because that was perfect. But if you're going to have that, I think you got to have 60-man rosters. Get rid of these practice squads, which are just a way for cheap owners to not have to pay their players. 60-man rosters, everybody active, everybody who can put a football uniform on is eligible to play, and let's go play some football.
Anyway. I'll give you that. And so the one answer I give is undefeated season and a Super Bowl champion, because
there you go.
At some point, it's
20 now.
Hang around a barbershop long enough, eventually you're going to get a haircut.
What are you going to do? 20
One year is going to be our year, and let's make it glorious for the misery. Once again, I did a documentary called Football Equals Family, the story of the perfect winless season parade. We went winless, like right before drafting Myles Garrett and turning everything around. So the story arc of becoming a playoff team now is a huge step in the right direction. Our roster is completely stacked. So the first answer is undefeated Super Bowl champ, but another answer, if I want to be realistic, I would say 13-4, and I say we do win our division, and I do think we go to the Super Bowl. I have high hopes. Everybody's in their prime. Nick Chubb's coming back. Let's go. So that's how I feel about my team. And before we get to the playoff teams in the, I was going to say, what is it? The AFC. See about this question here. Treebeard is asking you, Mike, are you tired? Are you guys tired of getting linked lately with fake NFL news? So Kyron Williams he's going to do punt return, but now that's scrapped. Jamar Chase, he doesn't practice and he might sit up, but now he's good to go. Any thoughts on these rumors or just it's all silly season until the games start?
Well, yeah. Why are we linked to these stories? Those aren't any Seahawks things, but look,
sports fans being fed this shit. Maybe that's a better word.
Look, everything changed when it went to gambling. When they moved a team here to Las Vegas, where I live, and the gambling became involved, I think the manipulation of outcomes of games is way worse. I mean, I saw a clip on Twitter, and I wish to gosh I had saved the video. And it was a game, I think it was last year. It was Dolphins versus the Chiefs, and Mahomes, tucks the ball under and starts running. And there's 2 Dolphins guys coming in, and they could have met at the point of attack and obliterated him and probably knocked him in the next week. And they both held up and stopped and let him run right through. Now, you tell me that's not scripted. So I think some of what is going on is inappropriately scripted, but I can't bring myself to say, gosh, it's all fixed. Every game is fixed. I don't think players would go for that. I think somebody would speak out. So
yeah, that is tough to get that many people.
I think we're having a problem.
Easily manipulated by the referees.
Right.
A pass interference play swings the pendulum 60 yards. A phantom holding call.
Well,
come on. NFL is the easiest to rig, but they can't do it for you. You still have to play.
Yeah, phantom holding call, Super Bowl 40 in Detroit. The Seahawks, the Super Bowl was stolen from us on a phantom holding call. Even John Madden said that's not holding. And there were multiple other calls in that game. And then, the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl 2 years ago, that holding call that just handed the game to the Chiefs, that was wrong. And I do think that, I think that the influence of gambling on these things is starting to cause more referees, doing something like that. I mean, I remember in 2006 or 2007, it was the Colts and the Patriots, and there was a phantom pass interference call late in the fourth quarter that gave the Colts the touchdown they needed to win the game and go to the Super Bowl. And I'm like, nobody touched anybody. There was literally no contact, but here was the agenda. The NFL, the Bears had already won. Lovie Smith was in the Super Bowl. The NFL wanted a black head coach to win a Super Bowl, so they made sure Tony Dungy got into that game. They made sure it was 2 black coaches, so they were going to have a black coach win a Super Bowl. That was it was a political agenda, and I still can't understand that call. From a it's not fixed perspective, I can't look at that play and say that was anything but a referee deliberately manipulating the outcome of a game. And we just hope that at least 90% of them aren't manipulated. But I don't know. I don't know, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, we covered that Tim Donaghy, the point shaving stuff at the NBA.
Yeah.
That was years ago, but come on. It's just the NFL, like I said, phantom holding call and a pass interference, just tussle it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Levy, who refereed Super Bowl 40, Super Bowl XL, the Steelers Seahawks Super Bowl, which everybody knows was won by the refs, not by the Steelers. Bill Levy, the head referee, there's a Vegas bookie, a famous guy who said, I knew Bill Levy. Bill Levy, he used to bet on NFL. When he was a referee, he bet on NFL games all the time through a mutual friend. So, of course, he was dirty. But, and again, let's even go even deeper. If I had money, if I had a lot of money, if I was Elon Musk and I could hire private investigators, right, I'm going to go look at Roger Goodell. Because Roger Goodell's friends and family do they work for the legal firms that all of the concussion settlement money was funded to? Because I happen, do you ever remember when Goodell comes in, all of a sudden, immediately, there's all this stuff about concussions. Nobody said jack about concussions before Goodell takes over. And then all of a sudden, guys are getting fined $75,000 because they get hit in midair and their helmet hits another guy, and the guy who got pushed into the other player gets fined $75,000. Concussions, and then a few large law firms get billions of dollars from the NFL. And I guarantee you, if you go back and look, you're going to find Roger Goodell's friends, Roger Goodell's family, Roger Goodell's brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law, that kind of thing, are going to be in those companies, those law firms that all the money was funneled to. And that's an investigation I would really like to see, because I really don't like Roger Goodell. Anyway,
I think some of that was Junior Seau shooting himself in the chest, and he wanted to preserve his brain because he felt like his life, the quality of his life had really deteriorated.
Well, no, he did not request that. His family did, so they could sue, claiming and get money, claiming that it was concussions that made him commit suicide. In reality, his playing career was over. His wife took the money and took the kids, and he ended up in a shitty little condo in Oceanside. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Oceanside, but it's a dump, okay? It's not a nice town. Junior Seau's life was ruined by the wife, who basically took him for everything he had in the divorce. And that's why I think he committed suicide. Anyway, we can get on to we're off on the political thing, but, I would argue that one with you. I have opinions on all these things.
No, and that's why this is going to be fun, because I've always considered the Unhappy Hour to be the anti-ESPN.
There we go. Let's talk about the real stuff. Yeah.
Yes. No, but I think it was Patriots tight end Aaron Hernandez and Kellen Winslow. Like, they got into legal problems. They had their issues, and everything was CTE.
Aaron Hernandez.
I think it all started with Colt McCoy getting absolutely headhunted by the Steelers. And then they let him come back out again, and he didn't know where he was at. He didn't know how to take the snap. He didn't know how to run the next play. And it was Colt McCoy of the Browns getting his ass kicked that I think really changed the story of.
Well, and then again, in Super Bowl 49, Julian Edelman gets blasted, and he's staggering all over the place, and they let him back on the field to get the winning touchdown. He should not have been out there. If the concussion protocols had been in place and were applied to the East Coast team the same way they were applied to the Seahawks, who lost 2 starters to concussions during that game, they were forced to sit out. Might have been a different outcome in that game. Although Pete Carroll could always have found a way to lose it. So,
yeah, it happened. But at least you got a championship in your lifetime out of Pete Carroll. That's more than I can say about Marty Ball and Hugh Jackson. Before we pivot over here, I just wanted to ask, because the game tonight is, of course, Chiefs-Ravens. We'll get to in a second. But Packers at Eagles. This is something, you mentioned, we're getting in the weeds politically. But come on, I expected that. You expected that. They're playing in San Paulo. You mentioned Elon and some other stuff going on. Yeah. There have been some calls that the NFL should not be rewarding Brazil because of what they're doing, what they're threatening, the civil rights violations of their new dictator. Elon has released a whole, Twitter files and X files expose on all the criminal activity from that judge that's gone rogue after the country appears to have been overthrown, perhaps. Should the NFL be playing there? Or if pro sports leagues can remove the All-Star game from Atlanta because they don't want guys and girls
they passed a voter ID law. Yeah, they passed a voter ID law.
Voter ID or guys and girls restroom. Yeah, it might have been voter ID, actually. Yeah. Surely the NFL should not reward Brazil and they should yank the game. What say you?
They should have yanked the game. Exactly, because this shows you how far the NFL has come from representing America and what America is and what it's it always talks about how it's the all-American game and it's our game, it's now our national pastime, but it's a woke shithole under Roger Goodell. And this is one of the reasons why I want Roger Goodell out of there and a commissioner with some common sense, because the game should have been pulled. Twitter X is the only relatively free speech platform on the internet. And when it was banned in Brazil, the NFL should have pulled their game. They should have said, we're going to play it instead in who was technically the home team, Green Bay. We'll play it in Green Bay. Guess what? You got a game. They should have absolutely done that. You should not be supporting this international global dictatorship that's trying to force itself into every country around the world, including ours. I hate to say it.
And if the NFL can paint slogans in all of their end zones to push some fake narrative that Nike, ESPN, and Colin Kaepernick cooked up, the Democrats to divide this nation and set it on fire, pit us against ourselves, like a scorpion and a tarantula shaking around in a cage to watch for their employment. Surely there's a different route that this could take.
The thing we can do about it.
Free speech is non-negotiable. Paint that in the end zone. Free speech is non-negotiable, and then in the other end zone, you write that in whatever Brazil is. That
in Portuguese, in Portuguese.
Thank you, Portuguese.
Yeah. No, I agree. The game should be pulled, and the only way we can fight back on this now is to not watch the game. It's going to be really hard because I'm a big football fan, and if there's a game on, I want to watch it, especially if it's in prime time. I want to go. live in Vegas. I want to go to a bar and watch it, but the only way to fight back on this now is to boycott that game. And hopefully people will, and hopefully it'll make enough of an impact that the NFL notices, because once they shut free speech down in Brazil, that should have been the end of it. I mean, what would you have held if the game was in Nazi Germany and Hitler, banned the American news media from being in Germany? Would you have kept the game there? There's no difference. It's the same thing. It's a war against freedom of speech.
And Mike, there have been Russian athletes that have been banned from competitions, including the Olympic stuff. Oh, no. There's because of what's going on with Ukraine at that border, you can't compete in these versions of these games or these players.
Roman Abramovich owned Chelsea Football Club, one of the biggest clubs in England, one of the 5 biggest clubs in England, and was forced to sell his team with a gun to his head. They were going to seize his team because he was a Russian. That's the only reason, because he's a Russian. Oh, he's friends with Putin. Well, so, so it's
crazy. Doing business in Russia if you don't communicate with Putin. Try doing business in the U.S. if you're not. Of course, you have to link with the powers that be because you're trying to create big things. You don't get anything done unless you meet. You don't have to love the people, but you probably met them and you probably have some sort of working relationship as much as you're required to at the bare minimum, which that can be expected across all platforms anywhere, I would imagine. But
we try to separate our sports from our politics so we can relax and enjoy it. I'm afraid, Brian, it now has infested everything in our lives, and we're not going to be able to get away with it. I mean, music, there's politics in music, there's politics in sports, there's corruption in politics, there's corruption in sports. It's bad.
I need you to speak directly, Mike, to the unhappy hour people that tell me repeatedly, you need to take the politics out of sports. Why do you always push your politics in sports? And I'm like, I didn't create the story. ESPN is pushing this shit with ABC, ESPN, Disney.
Right.
They're running their Democrat divisive agenda, whether it's LeBron leading the charge or Kaepernick leading the charge or 10 other Nike-endorsed athletes who are pushing this nonsense, despite the fact that none of the data support the claims that they're making. But the sentiment feels good that, yes, your life matters. We all want to believe that. I mean, I'm reacting to what they're pushing. I'm not out there trying to do anything. I'm just pushing on.
When Jamel Hill, who used to be with you're right. When Jamel Hill makes some sort of ridiculous statement about how all white people are racist and black people can't be racist, I'm sorry, that's a sports story that you're forced to not talk about. When, let's talk about Mina Kimes. She's supposed to be one of these big Seahawks supporter. Her takes are dumb. And look, I've done television, okay? I've done TV. And I can tell you the difference between when somebody is reading a script that somebody else wrote for them and when somebody is speaking from their deep personal knowledge. And so this girl who's never played football in her life is passed off as a football expert by ESPN, and they shove it down our throats, and nobody asked for it, for a girl to be talking about NFL football. I'm sorry, that's a political issue, and it becomes a sports issue, and you got to address it one way or the other. And I understand people aren't going to agree with my take on it or Brian's take on it. And again, and Treebeard's saying, if they're going to shove Taylor Swift down our throat and everybody knows that's a fake relationship, I think it's a fair game for us to talk about it. And it's not like we're looking for it. They're the ones that are getting in our faces with it.
Yeah. They're the ones that will not stop. And it kind of sums up my media career in a way. I can't stand absorbing nonsense without offering a rebuttal, especially when I'm being lied to, especially when it's dangerous, especially when it's really corrosive and toxic stuff that I can't just sit back and ignore. I don't have I don't in my soul feel the luxury to sit back and kick back if I feel like I could yell something Paul Revere style, like, hey, one if by land, two if by sea, there's smoke coming out of that something. Guys, there's a problem. I'm just like, help, so
they've lit the pyres. This is the moment where they've lit the pyres in Lord of the Rings, and everybody knows the war is coming. So let's go. You got to get ready. Yeah, you got to get ready. So I understand.
Let me get back to the question you asked about the AFC. Let's go conference by conference. I'll get your thoughts too. We'll kind of bounce these around. AFC East: Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets. Obviously, the Jets, they were without Aaron Rodgers the whole season, but they do have some talent there. The Patriots, they're under new leadership. They're rebuilding. The Dolphins are probably a team on the come up, and I would say the Bills are someone that I could theoretically see sliding back a step or two with some of the personnel changes over there and the fact that, the Browns have the offensive coordinator from over there now. What say you about the AFC East?
Well, that's a tough division to pick. Look, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback I have ever seen. And I have seen him play long. And I have never seen anybody who throws the ball more accurately, throws it more accurately on the run, under pressure. He was underserved by low-budget teams in Green Bay. Only won one Super Bowl. But I've never seen a more talented quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. And so if he is 85% or 90% of what Aaron Rodgers used to be only 2 or 3 years ago, the Jets are going to be really good. Having said that, Robert Saleh is their coach. I think he's a terrible coach. I don't know about the rest of their personnel. They got some good pass rushers. I gotta like the Dolphins and the Jets and then the Bills and the Patriots. And again, I do think the Bills, I agree with you, take a step back just because for salary cap reasons, they had to cut a lot of budget there. So I think they take a step back before they can get better again.
No, that's fair. Treebeard saying, I want to see Aaron Rodgers come back in a big way. The Jets need something good. But Mike, once again, Mr. Pfizer worked his way into politics, and Aaron Rodgers, along with Kyrie Irving, different way, but similar people that took stances and did not allow themselves to get steamrolled by a forced medical agenda that kind of rolled out over the past few years. And we're just supposed to forget all of that happened. Aaron Rodgers, you said he was you said he was the best quarterback you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Just really quickly, can you speak on his role, the importance of his voice being in the zeitgeist of the sports world to counter ABC, ESPN, Disney push of things?
Because of that, I'm going to root for him. And because of all the hatred from the left-wing sports media against Aaron Rodgers for doing one simple thing. This is his crime. This is for what, he deserved to be crucified for as far as they're concerned. He proved that ivermectin cures COVID. That's why they hate him. And he is a living, breathing example. The week he had it, he could have played. He was on ivermectin for 2 days. He was 100% cured. He was fine. That's why they hate him. So you got to root for Aaron Rodgers, and I at least I do. And you look at the people who are against him, and that's why I'm going to root for him.
Yeah, I like that. Show me a person's enemies, and I'll tell you if I want to have a drink with them.
Exactly.
Yeah, the one time I met Rosie O'Donnell, I mean, she was practically hissing and spitting venom at me in a totally innocuous scenario, and I'm like, I am glad that I absorbed that demonic sense from you. Like, something about me irritated you, which means I'm in the right path.
Did she know who you were? Had she watched your show, or did you say something to her? What was the deal with that?
I'll peel back the layers of that onion later, but it was part of a 2-person segment that was set up in advance, and we were there to record a segment, and everybody knew what everyone's purpose and role and intentions were, and she was just on one and out there and just had some steam to blow. And so I love that I absorbed that. Yes, Joe D here is saying the Jets will make the Super Bowl at least, very least. Okay, we'll see about that. I don't know. And Treebeard saying, speaking of former Packers, he drafted Aaron Jones, hoping that works out in Minnesota. So, I have Aaron Jones in my Dynasty Football League. Do you play fantasy football, Seahawk boy, Mike Bara?
I don't. I used to almost always win, but I just don't. Because then I start focusing on things that don't affect games, like yards. Everybody who thinks yards are an important stat is a fantasy football player. It's a fantasy stat. I don't give a shiz about yards. Yards don't win football games, and they never have.
What you're saying right there, yards or yards after catch or rushing yards, it's when people talk about the Electoral College and the popular vote. Yeah, well, Hillary won the popular vote. I go, I don't care how many rushing yards your team had.
Yeah,
that's not that we used to determine the victor in this case.
Right,
exactly. I don't give a shit about rushing yards, passing yards. It's irrelevant. Look at the scoreboard.
Yeah. I mean, explosive plays, toxic differential, those are things that are important when you're talking about how do you evaluate teams. And, I hear all this stuff from these Seahawks geeks about DVOA, defensive value over average. It's it's bullshit. It's not a stat, okay? That is not a stat. It is just somebody's made up at some sort of analytics geek's concept of, I'm going to invent a new measurement system. How many times on 3rd and 3 do they succeed? It doesn't mean anything because personnel changes. I mean, in one game you can be terrible on 3rd and 3 because your left guard and your left tackle are out with an injury, and then next week they can come back and you can be great on 3rd and 3. So that doesn't matter. What matters is the important stuff like winning, first downs at key times, these things, touchdowns. How about that? Touchdown to interception ratio, I think, is the key metric to evaluate a quarterback. That shows you the great ones from the good ones. And by the way, who has the best touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history? Aaron Rodgers.
It's Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
Well, you moved from Seattle down to Vegas. Do you think Vegas has become an advanced analytic haven now because everyone's trying to beat the system? And if I get this one analytic right, I can bet it all the way through and make the mortgage payment or something.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I saw a guy he did a thing on YouTube stream where he bet played a no bust strategy. So in other words, once you get to 12 on blackjack, once you get to 12, doesn't take another hit. And he won $1,000, but it was, a 2-deck shoe. He was the only player. It was videotaped by the casino, so the casino wants you to think he's going to come to our casino and you're going to win big. And so, can you really? You got to critically think these things through, right? Am I really going to? And I tried it. The other night last week, and it was only $100, but I lost my $100 pretty quick playing that strategy.
Yeah, I've been told. Remind yourself, Brian. Remember. They didn't build all those fancy hotels and casinos in Vegas because so many people went there and won money.
Yeah, exactly. So the other thing, like I've kind of thought, I'm going to start doing a thing where I count sixes. I count 6 cards because you get stuck on 15, and what are the chances there's a 6 coming up? I might do that, but that's about as far as I'm going to take it. You're on 15, you need a 6. I'll go, well, I haven't seen a 6 yet in this deck, so I'm going to hit. I'll try that, but that's as far as I'm going to go. And that's really just I think your instincts, your gut feeling, your instincts are better than anything else in terms of.
No, and I appreciate that. I mean, that was kind of the knock on Moneyball with the Oakland Athletics. They made a movie Moneyball about it. And, you know, and I felt this way about Kevin Stefanski, the Browns coach. Yes, 2-time coach of the year. But sometimes it feels like certain players, certain coaches, certain teams can my interpretation, my gut instinct tells me that there are not feel calls. It's analytics driven, and it's almost like pre-scripted, because in the moment, it seems like you should be able to kind of call an audible and feel that the game has changed this way and you have opportunities. But if you're locked into an analytic driven way, you lose that pulse, the finger on the pulse of, you know, whatever that feeling, the it factor, the gut instinct, the anticipation, the whatever that is. All
right. Well, what do we think about the AFC North? I mean, that is a tough division. What do you think about that one?
I'll tell you about that one
Besides
too.
The Cleveland Browns. I mean,
I will say that since 1988, the Cleveland Browns have not won the AFC. It was the Central, now it's the North. 1988, it's been by far the team that it's been the longest since they won the division. So in that division, I am absolutely picking the Cleveland Browns to win it legitimately. The Steelers, they have Russ Wilson, but now he's complaining about a bum heel, I believe. We'll see. They have Justin Fields in the wings. That's usually a pretty well-run organization, despite being the dirtiest franchise in the league when they blew out Nick Chubb's knee on a non-football tackling play that if he would have made that play in his team's practice, he'd be kicked off the team and maybe taken care of.
And what was the guy?
Minka Fitzpatrick dove at his knee to bust it the opposite direction while he was already being tackled. That is a completely Bush League bullshit play from the Steelers. And they're a dirty team, and they need to be called out. I really call on the NFL to start doing something where if a Minka Fitzpatrick ruins the season of a player of that caliber, they have to forfeit a first-round draft pick to the team that had to lose that player for that whole season. I bet you people would think a little more closely. I understand hard hits. I understand fast plays. But that was bullshit. I'm dying at your knee with my helmet, not even looking at you.
We had a similar situation in week 3, the last preseason game 10 days ago. Uchenna Nwosu, who's our best pass rusher, best edge setting outside defender in our 34. You know, Wyatt Teller in a preseason game, he breaks through. This guy, Wyatt Teller, dives at his left knee and sprains his knee. We're lucky it's only a sprain, might get him back in the 4th or 5th week. But it's like, it was just completely uncalled for. And
you were saying that was the Browns with Wyatt Teller. You saw that.
It was last week. It was a week ago. It was preseason.
You were the last team that played you, right?
Oh, was it the Browns? Okay, yeah. It was, so I forgot.
He's a badass.
That was an uncalled for hit. It really was uncalled for in a preseason game, especially Wyatt Teller, who's an established starter, and I think he's been to the Pro Bowl. He's a good player. So I don't know. I look at the AFC North. I mean, the Bengals, you've always got Burrow, but the wide receiver,
Jamar
Chase is holding out. He's not come back yet. The Steelers, good defense, no receivers to speak of. Who's Russ going to throw to? The Ravens, solidly balanced team, but I think Mike McDonald, our new coach, was a great defensive coordinator. It remains to be seen whether the new coordinator is that good or not, and we'll just have to wait and see whether they're just as consistently good. And Lamar, great regular season player, good regular season player, very good regular season player, but not so much in the playoffs. So you guys could win that division, absolutely.
Heck yeah, I could honestly see. I appreciate that. That's awesome. I could really see Baltimore and Cincinnati fighting it out for 10 wins, 11 wins, 12 wins. These are good teams, and the Steelers, they're not trash. They have a really good defense with TJ Watt and a whole bunch of other people over there. They always do. So, I mean, they're consistently coached. They have a system.
Watt started to have that injury problem last year. And when sometimes there are players whose bodies are only good for 5 or 6 years. They get into that 6th year, like TJ Watt. It could be that he'll never be fully healthy again. He'll always have some nagging problem. And so you got to look at it like that and go, well, what are they without TJ Watt? They're not nearly as scary without TJ Watt, I'll tell you that.
No, that is a good point. I think you could say the same about Baltimore. They had problems with their running backs getting injured, and so now they went to Derrick Henry. I mean, look, he's a if you're talking about him as a vehicle, he's a Hummer, but he's got a lot of miles and they've been off-roading.
Right.
You know, he's a hell of a player, but he's starting to reach that stage of his career where the production and the breakaway plays, you know, it's not the same player from 3 years ago. So we'll see what they can do, but I would anticipate them fighting for wild card. I call for the Browns to win that in the AFC North. That takes us to the AFC South. Titans, Colts, Jaguars, Texans. Look, CJ Stroud went ahead and proved some of his doubters wrong, becoming one of the first Ohio State quarterbacks to be competent at the next level. You know, look for them to compete. I don't know if they're going to take a massive step forward, but they're right there. I expect them to compete absolutely with Jacksonville Jaguars. Maybe that's a neck and neck. I think Trevor Lawrence will have a bounce back season. Etienne at running back, Ingram. I think there's going to be some movement there where the team can. I think they underperformed last year and Trevor Lawrence fell backward. I think he can rebalance and recoup his career and recoup kind of the direction that the Jaguars are going. So I expect those two to battle it out. Colts, I'm interested to see what Anthony Richardson can do at quarterback. And I don't know, the Titans, they're just they're doing what they're doing. They got some end of your career players that are joining over there and trying some unestablished quarterback play. I don't expect to see too much there, but, you know, prove me wrong. We'll see. What say you?
Well, yeah, I like Houston. I was desperate for the Seahawks to trade up to the number 1 pick when the Bears put it on the auction block in 2023 and take CJ Stroud. I watched him in college. Unlike a lot of people when they look at quarterbacks, I say how he plays in big games in college is a big thing for me. And I saw CJ Stroud play fantastic in the national championship games and all those things. And I was in love with CJ Stroud. We had the juice. We had the 5th and the 20th pick in the draft. We had a pick this year we spent on Byron Murphy. We could have easily traded up to the number 1 pick, but I also knew Pete and John were clowns and idiots, and they didn't think they needed a quarterback to win a Super Bowl. And so CJ Stroud is going to be the one that got away for me for the rest of his career. So I like the Texans. Lawrence, I like. The Jaguars, I think their roster is inconsistent. The Colts roster is really inconsistent. The team that might be a contender actually is the Titans. They have added some players to the offensive line. They have some good skill position guys. It's all going to come down to Will Levis. Now, Will Levis was my fallback position. If the Seahawks are going to be morons and not trade up for CJ Stroud when they had a chance, which they were, my fallback position was Will Levis because I think he has all the physical talent we could want in a big-time quarterback, Josh Allen level physical tools. So it depends on his development. He's shown flashes. He's really looked good at times. And I would have taken him with the 5th overall pick in 2023. I would have taken him with the 20th overall pick. I would have gone up and gotten CJ Stroud. So that division really sticks in my craw because I'm looking at guys that I wish were my quarterback. And you know, I don't hate Geno Smith. I get accused of that all the time, but we have completely dropped the ball in terms of getting somebody that has a potential to be better than Geno up and behind him. And so I look at that division. I got to say it's Houston all the way. I got to go Houston, Tennessee, Jags, and Colts. And it will be one of those 9-8 division winners, I think, out of that group. They're going to beat each other up pretty good because they're all basically even teams in there.
Gotcha. Yeah, regarding the Texans in history, I would just add, remember, that's where the Browns got Deshaun Watson from. That's where we had to give up 3 first-round picks and a whole bunch of other stuff just to make it happen. So as they're drafting and they're hitting – now, to be fair, C.J. Stroud was not a pick that we sent to them. But, I mean, we've seen that throughout the course of the Browns' history, players we've famously passed on sitting right there to fill a glaring need. The Browns are forever going to be linked to Texans, and unless Deshaun Watson gets it together and is able to string together a consistently solid / good or great season, I mean, people have legitimately talked about the Deshaun Watson trade being the worst trade in NFL history. I think that's too harsh. I was super team Baker. I hated Watson for 100 reasons. Not him personally, just I didn't like the game. I didn't like the fit. I didn't like bailing on injured Baker. I did for a million reasons. I was against it, but I've worked that out of my system now. I know that Watson can be okay if he can grasp the nuances of the offense, and that's why they went out and got the Bills offensive coordinator Van Pelt, however that worked out, to come in and just revamp.
They've got a really good head coach in D'Amico Ryans. They really have a good head coach there, and they found some skill position players lower in the drafts, some receivers. So I like the Texans in that division.
I meant to say Browns offensive coordinator, former quarterback Ken Dorsey.
Ken Dorsey.
So he's worked with a lot of people that have had successes, most recently Josh Allen, and he's coming over here as a reclamation project, just kind of grabbing Deshaun and, listen, buddy, let's sit down and figure out how to make you the best version of you.
Right.
Tree here in the comments says Lawrence is a coin toss. Also, he just got paid. So who knows? Yeah, sometimes players perform better when they get their bag so they can relax and focus on the craft, knowing I'm going to give it all I have, because if I get injured, I'll just sit at home and watch TV. I'll be fine.
Yeah, if I get injured, I'll buy a mansion in Vegas, for half the price it'll cost me anywhere else, and live there.
No, exactly.
Is Trevor Lawrence on our team, or is he? I don't know.
Is Trevor Lawrence?
Is he straight? Straight is he? You remember the old Seinfeld thing? Our team versus their. Is he on our team, or is he on their team?
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't know about Trevor Lawrence. All right, let's go to the AFC West. What do you think there?
Yeah, we call him Sunshine from not Almost Famous. What was the name of that? Sunshine from the Stoner movie. Dazed and Confused. There we go.
Dazed and Confused. Okay.
That's exactly who Lawrence looks like. All right. AFC West now. Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers. Chargers have new blood over there in the coaching realm, and they do have talent. Raiders, that's your backyard. I'll let you kind of dig into that one. But, they have some talent too, and a new coach kind of has them a bit on the same page. Not sure how Devontae Adams is working out there. Uneven quarterback play. But they have pieces as well. The Chiefs have ran the division. They've ran the NFL for a lot of years. I don't know. I would expect the Chiefs to maybe take a step back. Maybe just out of enough is enough, less than analytically. Yeah. And then the Broncos. I think the Broncos will take a step forward just because you can't really fall back any further from where they've been. In that division, I will still say the Chiefs are the lock, or at least they're more likely to win the division. But I think the Chargers and Raiders might push them a little harder than would be expected. And maybe the Chiefs aren't as great as they have been in previous regular seasons. What say you, Seahawks?
Well, the Chiefs, the Chiefs have shown a history, though, at the trading deadline. If they need something, they're going to go get it. So I like the Chiefs here. Obviously, they got Mahomes, who personally I don't think is as great as everybody thinks he is. I think he's one of the more overrated players. He's the most overrated player in the NFL right now. I think there's 6 or 8 quarterbacks who, if they were put into his situation, would have had just as much success as Patrick Mahomes has had because of Andy Reid and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and all the great offensive linemen they had around him. So that's just me. But Chiefs, I think, are clearly head and shoulders above. I think you got to go with the team with the 2 best quarterbacks, Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to put the Chargers second, although the Chargers, they may have some good players. They got my guy, Brendan Rice. I got all kinds of grief from Seahawks fans for saying, 7th round, I'm taking Brendan Rice if he's there. They didn't do it. He went earlier, and people were ripping on me for that. And, well, guess what? He made their 53-man roster. In fact, I did a redo on my Seahawk Boys TV Twitter X. And it's funny, every single guy that I wanted the Seahawks to take, as opposed to who they took, made a 53-man roster with the exception of one, Christian Mahogany, who's on the NFI list. He'll be playing on the 53. So it's actually a better record than John Schneider, Seahawks general manager. I just like everybody to know that. But Chargers, we played them in week 1 in the preseason. Their depth is terrible. They have nothing. So if they stay away from injuries, they can be competitive because they've got Justin Herbert, but they have no depth. If they get loose starters, they are going to be right at the bottom. The Raiders are okay. They're not great anywhere. They do not have the quarterback. I think them third. And the Broncos dead last. But I saw Bo Nix play here in the last Pac-12 championship game at Allegiant Stadium last December. He is terrific. He will struggle his first year, but eventually he's going to be a Pro Bowl quarterback. He has got everything you want from a leader and a quarterback, and he can make plays all over the field with his arms and with his legs. And as long as he doesn't get too shell-shocked, like this weekend when he's going to lose to my Seahawks, he'll ultimately be the solution at quarterback for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I would say it's been pretty tough. I know what it's like to not have a quarterback. It's been pretty tough, probably since Peyton Manning, for Denver to get anything figured out. It's hard to build
Yeah.
when that position isn't there. And once again, a quick flashback to the COVID season where Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, and the boys took on the Kansas City Chiefs and went in on a touchdown pass from Baker to Hollywood Higgins, who dove into the end zone. And Dirty Dan Sorensen of the Chiefs came running in and blasted him helmet to helmet, causing a fumble through the end zone, leading to a touchback. It swung the momentum. We ended up losing by 4. That's a game that we should have won, and we could have ended up as Super Bowl champion that year.
I remember that game. I do remember that play.
So, I mean, once again, the Browns had a chance to knock the Chiefs out.
And failed.
Yeah. We got close, but imagine how fortunes could have changed if just one thing would have went differently. I think it would have been Browns versus Bills in that AFC title game then, and either Josh Allen and Baker would have had a chance to win a title. So, yeah, probably Chiefs division to lose, but I think they've made some strides, the Raiders and Chargers. All right, let's go to NFC East. Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, Commanders. The Browns start their season with the Dallas Cowboys. It's going to be the 425 game. Tom Brady calling it. It's going to be national. It is going to be huge in Cleveland. I'm definitely being invited there. It's not super easy to go, but I'm slightly tempted. Look, Cowboys, they're a talented team. Can they get over the hump? I think they can. I think they have a legitimate shot to actually win this division. I know that goes against contemporary history. They haven't really done much since Emmitt Smith of note. But maybe this is the year. Maybe the Eagles take a step back. But the Eagles, look, their roster is as stacked as the Browns. They have a Super Bowl under their belt recently. Just kind of the general panache and the way they carry themselves and organizationally, they have got a good shot there. I don't know. Giants, Commanders, they're retooling. Jaden looks good at the Commanders. I think something good could happen there at that position. I don't know. Giants, what are the Giants without Saquon? What are the Giants in general? I would say Eagles can win the division, but I'm going to say the Cowboys are going to come out with this, and then whoever can't win the division will likely get a wild card berth. What say you?
I think it's Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders, and maybe the Commanders flip-flop. If Jaden Daniels is as great as people think he is, they could finish ahead of the Giants. The Giants really have a bare cupboard in terms of talent. They have Daniel Jones at quarterback. He's had his moments, but I don't think he's the guy. The only reason I think Cowboys are in it is because of Dak. I think Dak is a really good player. He's not a great player, but I'd certainly take him over Geno Smith. Let's put it that way. I'd pay him the money. I'd take him over Geno.
CeeDee Lamb is pretty darn good at receiver, helping him. Like, they have a nice tandem going on, an Irvin Aikman thing going on.
Some of these guys, the receivers that are listed out there, I don't see them as that great. CeeDee Lamb, he's great against zone coverage when he runs to an open spot and they throw the ball to him. I don't see him make that many great plays under pressure when he's being covered. So we'll see. But yeah, I like the Eagles because of their overall balance and their coaching. They have a coach who's gotten them to the Super Bowl. I think Jerry Jones is desperate to have a reason to fire Mike McCarthy and hire Bill Belichick next year. So I think that's going to be behind the Cowboys.
Oh, that is a good one right there. Yeah, Belichick's taking a year off to do some dating. Kudos to you, pal.
Put a crown on his head. He's got a 24-year-old girlfriend.
Yeah, good on you, my man. Treebeard saying, this year for sure, says every Cowboys fan ever, but he expects the Cowboys to lose. I do as well. I think they're in for a tough day. I think they are a talented team, but I don't think they fully understand just how angry and focused the Browns are, and they're healthy too. So,
and Micah Parsons, Micah Parsons wants a new contract. Their best pass rusher. I think that's an issue. A lot of people say he's a selfish player. I think there's there's locker room trouble there.
There might be. I know the Browns had their issues over the past few years as well. It couldn't run away from the story, no matter how much it went. Focus on the product on the field. It was a lot about this and that and Baker and Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry and behind the scenes and what you're posting on your X account. It's just, I like that we're just focused on football at this point. But I mean, if they got locker room problems, what do I care? I like Jerry because he tipped me $100 one time in Los Angeles because I served him 2 Jack and Cokes. How about them Cowboys? So other than that,
how about them Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys? All right, NFC North. You got the Vikings, Packers, Lions, Bears. Look, Vikings losing, and this is Blake Wally. Blake Wally regularly joins your Toxically Masculine Tuesday show. Oh, by the way, you mentioned that your boy is going to be gone for a while. Yeah, hit me up if you need someone to jump in for those or for that other cigar show. I'm doing as many shows as possible. Like right now, I'm in nothing but doing show move.
We'll bring in the Toxically Masculine Tuesday to talk a little news.
I'm in. You just let me know exactly. I'm in. So
right.
Vikings, that's Blake Wally's team, and the fact that JJ McCarthy's out for the whole season, maybe he was going to be playing halfway through the season over Sam Darnold. I drafted him in my dynasty league. I'm sad to see him injured, even though he is from that team up north, and Buckeye fans don't root for them at all. So Vikings are going to have it tough. They still have Justin Jefferson, but is Darnold really going to get him the ball? I don't know. If they have an 8-9 or a 9-8 season, that'll probably be a win in my estimation.
Yeah.
Packers are good like they always are, but I think the Lions are a little bit better. I think the Lions are a little stacked, a little hungrier, a little more actually experienced, having made that playoff run last year. In the Bears, they're retooling with Caleb Williams. I would have never drafted Caleb. I would have stayed a million miles away from him. I would have traded for a king's ransom of picks and just called it a day and figured out another option. But prove me wrong. I've been wrong before. But I think the Lions take this division, and the Packers could easily be a wild card team. What say you?
Yeah, I think Lions take the division. I'm a big fan of Jared Goff. I think he is a really underappreciated player. Obviously not the sharpest tool in the shed. Didn't know that the sun rose in the east and set in the west, but that was 7 or 8, 9 years ago. Let's forgive him for that. I root for Goff. I root for Goff so he can shut up all of his critics. They have a balanced team. They have Aiden Hutchinson. If they stay healthy, I think they win the division. Packers are close behind them, but they got rid of Aaron, the running back, Aaron, we just talked about, Aaron Jones. Why'd they do that? That makes no sense whatsoever. They drafted a new running back. They would have had a really strong attack. They should have beat the 49ers last year in the playoffs. I just don't. I look at Jordan Love. I think he's a really terrific player. A lot of people don't like him. They have a solid defense. I like them second and in contention for a wild card. And then the Vikings have a pretty decent balanced roster, but without the trigger man at quarterback, with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, he's got, his hairline comes down to about a millimeter above his eyebrows. That's not a sign of high intelligence. I never thought Darnold was going to make it. I don't care what physical tools you have. If your hairline is right here, you're dumb. Okay, you're a caveman. Never really liked him. And the Bears, I do think the Bears are last again, although I think they're real competitive. You look at Caleb Williams, I see Cam Newton tools. But remember, Cam Newton had no heart. And Cam Newton,
very flashy. They're both very flashy, fashion forward.
And very me, and that's not going to win you a Super Bowl ever. That is just not, unless you get lucky and you have a great coach and a great team around you. So I think I put it in that order. Bears and Vikings may be vying for that third spot, but neither one of them is a playoff contender.
No, that's fair. And regarding the Packers letting their running back go, I mean, they went and got Josh Jacobs. They did their homework and thought he would be a good fit, but A.J. Dillon on the injured reserve, a couple others are banged up, and you're like, geez.
Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs, that would be a running game to be afraid of, but it's not. Now, I don't understand why they cut him. Again, this is the Packers not really having a GM, not really having an owner, not really having a football vision, and excuse me, making dumb moves to weaken their team when they didn't need to.
Well, I will add one more component to the Green Bay Packers, like the fact that, like you said, they're kind of shareholder driven. As weird as that is, let me just say, as a Browns fan who lost my team in '96, just the fact that the shareholders own the team, they're never going to ever go anywhere. I glommed on and I became a Brett Favre fan. I rooted for the Packers winning their Super Bowl. I just became such a fan of the city because they couldn't be railroaded the way Cleveland was. So I've been a fan of them for a while, and it's nice to see Jordan Love settling in there. I mean, the Packers really do like to draft a quarterback, redshirt them, let them sit for a hot minute till they get frustrated, and then they move on, and then it's another decade of stable quarterback play. We'll see if the same happens with Jordan Love, but they seem to be on the same track. They just paid the man. They believe he might be the guy. So, let's see how it shakes out. NFC North here. Falcons, Saints, Buccaneers, Panthers. Wow. Okay. I see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers able to take another step forward, shoring up some of the issues on their offensive line. Baker Mayfield, let's not forget, wasn't he comeback player of the year? He was the Pro Bowl player of the year, the skills player of the year in the Pro Bowl, whatever it was. Baker Mayfield snapped back in a way that proved me right to the haters forever. I was right about him. He can lead a team to the playoffs. He is competent. He is capable. He also has that flash of magic that you can go down the field and hit the game-winning touchdown pass against the Cincinnati Bengals. You can get off the plane 30-something hours later and lead the Rams on a 98-yard drive with no timeouts to win the game on national television.
Yeah.
Baker does have magic.
And then you headbutt a guy with a helmet. Well, you're not wearing a helmet, too. You headbutt the guy with the helmet. That was awesome. Anyway.
Now that's equal parts awesome and Baker being Baker, which means is he mature? Is he, he's chugging the beer at the Indians game? You'll always have a little bit of that with Baker being Baker. Is he being too much of a clown? Is he unfocused? Is he in shape? Well, I saw big strides there last year. I think he's going to take even more strides. I don't think we've seen the best out of Baker Mayfield yet. I think he might, by the time it's all said and done, actually be the best quarterback to come out of that draft class. And we'll see as time goes. But I'm going to say Buccaneers get it done. They still have their receiver core intact. I do think the offensive line and the running team, the running back is going to help them with that. I don't know. Panthers are a mess. Who knows? Saints, I don't know what the Saints are doing down there. It's Falcons. I don't know. I guess it could be competitive because this was not a dominant Tampa Bay team, but I'm not even sure what to say about the Saints and the Falcons. I'll just kick it to you and the Panthers for that matter. Bryce Young. I mean, like what kind of teams are we looking at?
I think it's Buccaneers all the way because of Baker and the other players and the coaching staff. Who is it? Todd Bowles down there? Who's the coach? I like Todd a lot. I think if you put together an all-star team of the rosters from the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Saints, you could have a team that could compete with the Buccaneers, but I don't think anybody else is really competitive. I do think that in New Orleans, I think Spencer Rattler is a starter by mid to late season. I think Derek Carr plays himself out of a job by mid to late season. I think Spencer Rattler comes in. He's the guy I wanted the Seahawks to draft in the 4th or the 5th round this year. They failed to do so and it will cost them. And I think he's going to be a great player, a great quarterback in this league. So I think the Saints probably have the next best talent. The Falcons have some talented players. They don't know who they're.
Pause. I'm going to pause. You said Falcons?
Falcons, yes.
I like Falcons. I call the Steelers. I call them Schittsburg.
The Schittsburg.
Raiders. I used to call them Jokeland.
We like to call them the Faders. The Faders because they fade. Yeah, the Faders. But I think the Falcons, they don't know who their quarterback is. It's going to be Kirk Cousins at the beginning, probably. I think Michael Penix, again, having seen him play live, I was desperate for the Seahawks to go get him. He's going to be an amazing professional. He's the arm, the talent. He's going to be fantastic, but he's not the starter right now, and he's a rookie. So I think when we get into the last team in the division there, I think it's definitely Carolina, who's improved a lot on their offensive line, gotten a few weapons. It's all on Bryce Young. He has to make a huge leap for them to be competitive next year.
And I've heard some reports, by the way, that Bryce Young has taken a massive leap forward. He's much more comfortable with what's going on. And, of course, that's been an unstable organization for several years. And that trickles down to everyone you're relying on. If you're not familiar with the roster, you're not familiar with the schemes and it's a mess. But my understanding is they might take a step forward. Once again, it's hard to go further backward if those reports are true. Let me go back to the Falcons. Look, Kirk Cousins, for what he is pretty solid at being that. I think Drake London is a very nice wide receiver. I think Bijan Robinson is a hell of a running back. Tyler Algier is a nice compliment.
Yeah, Bijan Robinson's really good. It's really good.
He's an absolute stud if they use him right. And look, Kyle Pitts could be a top 5 tight end if they use him appropriately. So
does he want to be? Does he even want to be? I don't know about Kyle Pitts.
You're questioning his heart?
Yes. And, the thing is, Kirk Cousins and Geno, to me, are the same guy. They're like the best of the guys who aren't good enough. The best of the guys who aren't
good enough. Cousins above Geno. Geno had 1 year where we were excited for him.
Too, but, you watch Geno play sometime, and sometimes he'll make a throw, and you'll go, where the hell did that come from? I didn't know Geno Smith could do that. So
No,
You'd
that's
be
true.
surprised how
The West Virginia kid. That guy made that throw. I didn't think he was. No, you're right. And
the
look,
guy with the big giant pimple on his cheek during the NFL draft, he had that huge whitehead on his cheek that, you're just waiting for it to pop. God, that was awful. Thank God. But then he came back the next day and got drafted in the second round, and it had popped. But wow, it was just bad. That was a bad look, Gino.
Thanks for that reminder. Appreciate it. All right, let's see what's going to pop in the NFC West here. We have the Rams, Cardinals, Niners, and Seahawks. I was privileged enough to go to the Brown game hosting the 49ers last year. PJ Walker somehow pulled out an upset win. We were missing Nick Chubb, and we got that win, but they are kind of the cream of the crop there. The Rams have pedigree. They have good coaching. They have talented players, Puka Nacua and
Stafford.
Stafford and Cooper Kupp. Look, they're good. They have a talented roster. They are an offensive-minded team. You're going to see them put some points on the board. Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. Blake Corum is a hell of a running back. That's a two-headed monster if they use it right. Look, I think the Rams are going to score a lot of points. Can they overtake the Niners in that division? I don't think so, but once again, I think they're well coached. They have talented players. I think the Rams could easily compete for a wild card this year. I think it's the Niners division to take. Cardinals, I'm not sold on the Cardinals, but they do have some talented players there. James Conner, if he can stay healthy. Trey Benson is nice, sitting there as a second complimentary back. Marvin Harrison Jr., I mean, he's a Buckeye, and he's the best of the best. And the Trey McBride end is a baller as well. So, Cardinals have talent, but do they have the quarterback to make it all work? I'm not certain of it. And then the Seahawks. Seahawks. What am I going to tell you about your Seahawks that I'm not going to hear back? I'll tell you this much. I drafted Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet in my Dynasty League. So, they're talented players. They have the skill set. DK Metcalf, I've had him in my Dynasty. I followed his career immensely. He's a stud. Lockett is a stud, and Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. And Noah Fant, these are Buckeyes. You get Buckeyes, you get pro-ready players. You guys are theoretically stacked at the talent positions. Is Geno enough to make it happen? Can you compete for a playoff spot? I'd say maybe, depending on the defense. So let me throw it to you. This is your division. This is your time to shine, sir. Mike Bara.
Well, I think the 49ers are the class of the division. They are the best team. They went to the Super Bowl last year. However, they're team turmoil right now. They've had holdouts. They've had injuries. They've got problems. They've got people upset with the organization. Their their top draft pick, Ricky Pearsall, just got shot yesterday.
Tell people what that was about and the significance of the 2024 election.
Well, I mean, he was going to an autograph session. He had his Rolex on, his first-round pick gift to himself. And some guy on the streets of San Francisco shithole, walked up to him, and they fought over a gun, and he got shot. And somehow he got shot through the chest, but didn't hit any major organs. And he'll be back in week 5 or 6, but that's a setback. So I see them, along with the normal post-Super Bowl loss hangover, I see the 49ers taking a step back. Now, will it be enough of a step back to 12-5 or 11-6 that somebody else could come up and catch them? It is possible, but I don't think it's going to be the Rams. The Rams have Stafford. They have some good offensive talent, but Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp have both been injured of late. I think if they lose those guys, one or both of them, to 3 or 4 weeks, they're going to have real trouble. They don't have Aaron Donald on defense anymore. They just got rid of their best second-level player, their linebacker. They traded him away. I think that the Rams take a big step back last year, and they were a little bit lucky to win. I think it was 10 games last year and get into the playoffs. I don't see that happening this year. I think they take a step back. They have another year of roster building to go before they're really going to get there. The Cardinals have Kyler Murray. I would love to have Kyler Murray on my Seahawks. Other than that, I can't think of a single player I'd like to have. Marvin Harrison, good player. Would I take him over DK? No. DK is already established at what Marvin Harrison might become. The question is, can Geno Smith and or Sam Howell, if Geno gets injured, get the ball to DK? Because DK could put up incredible numbers if he had if he had Russell Wilson still throwing him the ball the last 3 or 4 years, his numbers would be huge. He is a top 5 receiver in this league. I can't think of anybody I'd take over him. To be honest with you, there's a lot of great players out there, but over DK, I just wouldn't take him because of the size, the speed, the hands are great. They're not They're really good. They're not great. He does drop a ball here and there. But we have DK Metcalf. We have Tyler Lockett. We have Jackson Smith-Njigba. The thing about Njigba is the word coming out of Seahawks camp is that the current offensive coordinator, who's Ryan Grubb, who was a very imaginative coordinator for the Washington Huskies last year, who went to the NCAA championship game, they looked at tape from last year and they can't believe the way Njigba got used by the Seahawks offense. They said it's completely not what he does well. So they're going to focus on getting him into situations that he's good at. He's going to have a big year. I know they're excited about Noah Fant. And when you talk about guys like David Njoku, I think Noah Fant's in the same category, a guy who just really needs to be in the right scheme fit. Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker are two really good backs. Both have been injured. If they stay healthy, you've got a good deal there, although neither one of them is going to get enough carries to make you a real superstar in fantasy leagues. You're going to have to be lucky and catch them on that week where they get the majority of the carries, although I do think that Walker gets more carries than he got last year. The weak spots on the Seahawks are the offensive line and the linebackers. The offensive line, is it better than last year? Yeah, it's better than last year, but not by that much, and there's a lot of young players who are going to have to step up for them to be good enough to really have an explosive offense. I mean, the standard is let Russ cook. In 2020, under let Russ cook for 7 games or 8 games, Seahawks went 6-2. They averaged 31.4 points per game. Russell Wilson had 26 touchdowns and 6 interceptions over that 8-game period. That's the standard we're looking at. Can Geno Smith do that? Geno gets off to a great start. He usually does every year, but he's 34. He's had 2 nagging injuries. And here's the difference between Geno and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson can still make plays with just his arm and shoulders. Geno Smith is a leg guy. He throws with his legs. To get the proper mechanics and the accuracy, he has to have the space to put his feet down and make the right throws. And when he does, he makes throws you wouldn't even believe you were talking about Geno Smith making. So the pressure up the middle, if it can be contained, Geno can have a really big year, maybe back to his 2022 level. But that's the key thing. Sam Howell was absolutely worthless as a backup. So if Geno goes down for 2 or 3 or 4 games, you can pretty much count those games out for the Seahawks. Defense is massively improved. 29th overall, probably into the top 15, simply because of 2 words. Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. He's going to put all the square pegs into square holes and the round pegs in the round holes. Seahawks are going to make a lot of progress on that side of the ball. They have some good players. Byron Murphy has some issues with the $15,000 he owns a trans prostitute. These things are problems. They may come out.
I'm sorry, you're just going to slide that one in there? That's what he said?
Because the Seahawks couldn't draft Spencer Rattler because of character, but they drafted a guy with their first overall pick at 16 who owes $15K to a trans hooker. Okay, got it. Thank you. Yeah, character. I don't like the Seahawks general manager very much. So I think the Seahawks are the team that challenges for the division. I think they can get to 11 wins with luck falling their way and injuries. They could get to 12. They could theoretically challenge the 49ers for the division. I don't think it happens. I do think they're a wild card team. The Rams are behind them, and the Cardinals are just dead last. They have another year or 2 of building to go on. And he talked about James Conner. I think James Conner is shit. I mean, I've watched that guy for 7 years. If he's your top running back, you don't have much of a running game. They got to get better than that. So Cardinals just have some work to do. So, that's where I see things, and that's what I think happens.
Gotcha. All right. Well, now that we wrap that up, I guess we're going to wrap up the show. I guess we're going to make our picks. I'll put this
up. Make our picks for this week. Yeah.
All right. So is this straight up? It says you've already accepted this invitation. Do I need to refresh this, or is that fine?
No, that's fine. You're good.
Okay.
I think this is not necessarily against the spread. This is just wins-loss. Who do you think wins? Who do you think loses?
Okay, so we're both going to make our picks, and it's going to rock through the season.
And it'll record them, and we'll go head-to-head as the season goes along.
Okay, I am going to say, unfortunately, Baltimore wins this game. Oh, I must be logged in to pick games. What? I just did that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, if you want to pull yours up, and then I'll do this offline.
Yeah, you got to go. Maybe it logged me out too, so I don't know. Replace screen sharing. Okay, let me go to mine. Is that me up there? Nope, it's not me.
Oh, here I can. Yeah, you can. That should be you there.
That's me. Okay. All right. So I'll go through and pick and do my picks with the NFL Game Picker. I'm with you. I like the Ravens tonight. I think there's a revenge factor. Sam's telling me the same thing.
Wait, hold on. I know why it did because I just logged in. Hit refresh. Maybe only one of us can use this at the same time. Why don't you try it?
Probably. All right, you go ahead. And I will log in.
Okay. Well, this is the first time using this, folks, but it's kind of fun theoretically. All right, we'll try it.
There we go.
I'm going Baltimore. That's my pick. Is that who you're taking?
Yeah. Okay. Green Bay, Philadelphia.
Oh my gosh. I'm going with Green Bay on this one.
Okay. Green Bay. All right. Arizona at Buffalo.
I think the Bills are still going to pull this one out. Like you said, Cardinals still have some work to do. You picking the Bills here?
You just do yours. I'll do mine. We'll go from there.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see what you're saying. Oh, then,
not picking together. You're making your picks, and now I'm going to make my picks, and then we're going to see how we do head-to-head as the season goes on. Picking games.
I see how we're doing this. I'm going to pick the Panthers in a rare upset based on those preliminary reports that Bryce Young is the real deal. In the last year, we need to wipe that out. It was an anomaly. Houston, Indy. I'm going Houston. CJ is a stud. How about an upset here? Jacksonville takes out Miami. Miami's busy smelling their own farts, like they say in the South Park episode there. Sure, we'll call it an upset. I think the Jaguars bounce back, and I think that the Dolphins could take a step back. New York, oh geez, Vikings, New York.
Crummy game of the week right there. Crummy game of the week.
I still think Justin Jefferson finds a way to will that team to victory, and I think the running game can help them. New England, Cincinnati. I see the Patriots winning here, shockingly. I think the Jamar Chase holdout is going to hurt them, and that'll help the Browns in the division. Pittsburgh at Atlanta. Look, I think Kirk Cousins is a consummate professional. I think Pittsburgh has a problem at the QB position. Edge Atlanta. I'm going for them. Tennessee, Chicago. Right. Tennessee has more stuff put together. Chicago has a talented – you know what? I talked myself out of it. The Bears had a really strong defense last year, and I think they're going to take advantage of the youth of the Titans there. Denver, Seattle. I'm going Seattle. Come on, how am I going to pick against your team? That would just
you can do that if you want. It's okay.
Okay, fine. I'm going Denver. No, I'm just kidding. I hate Denver more than anybody else because of John Elway. What he did. No, but Seattle's by far a more organized team over there. Los Angeles, Las Vegas. I think they're catching them at the right time. I give the edge to the Raiders, but I think halfway through the season, the Chargers will be a better team. That's my prediction there. Dallas at Cleveland, as I mentioned, undefeated season. Cleveland's going to pull it out at home. Dallas, very good team, but not enough to conquer the big orange machine. Washington, Tampa Bay, go Baker, go Bay. Detroit, Rams, I think Detroit is doing well. I think Detroit's going to stay doing well. And then New York, San Francisco, how about some of that Aaron Rodgers magic? He's going to go ahead and pull out a ridiculous upset. Like you said, there's been turmoil on the team, and Aaron Rodgers has a chip on his shoulder. Those are my picks.
All right. Good stuff. Okay, so let me slide over and share mine. Here we go. Seahawk Boy Mike. Okay. Again, I like Baltimore over Kansas City tonight too, but I think the Chiefs are going to pull the game out. Packers, Hurts versus Love.
They always do. The Chiefs always find a way to pull these out. It just
they do. They do.
Such a track record on that.
Although getting upset on Thursday night, the opening nights. I think at home celebrating their deserved Super Bowl this year as opposed to the previous year where they didn't deserve it. That's something. Eagles, Packers. Is it Jordan Love or Jalen Hurts? Jordan Love or Jalen Hurts? I got to go with the home team. I got to go with the Lions on that one. Arizona at Buffalo. Buffalo crushes Arizona. New Orleans versus the Panthers. Even if Bryce Young makes progress, they're not that great. I'm going to go with the home team.
Oh, I know. That one's going to come back to bite me. I took a wild flyer.
Oh, okay. That's as the season goes along, you're going to have a hunch about games, and it's going to happen. It's just going to mess you up. I think C.J. Stroud over the Colts. Close game. Jacksonville at Miami. I'm going to take the Dolphins at home. I think you took the Jags just because I like Tua. Minnesota, New York. Wow, crummy game of the week. Sam Darnold versus Daniel Jones. I'm going to take Daniel Jones. I'm going to take the home team. Bengals, they're not going to have Jamar Chase, but they do have Joe Burrow. They are playing at home, and they're going against Jacoby Brissett. So I got to take the Bengals. Steelers, Atlanta. I'm going to go with my boy Russ. I just think Russ is just going to find a way to get it done on the road in Atlanta. Tennessee and Chicago. I like Tennessee. I like Will Levis. I wanted the Seahawks to draft him. I want him to do well. They're going against Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams has a great debut, but I think the Tennessee pulls the upset. Denver, Seattle. Seattle's a much more talented team than Denver. Bo Nix, think it's going to be a great pro, but I'm going to take the Seahawks. Vegas and the Raiders, my semi-home team, Las Vegas and the Chargers. I got to say Justin Herbert is better than whoever the Raiders quarterback is. Now, I'm going to do this just to fight with you. I'm going to take the Cowboys. I just think they're a little bit.
Oh, how dare you.
They're fired up, but I suspect Cleveland is going to win, but I'm going to take the Cowboys in the upset. The Redskins versus Tampa Bay. I believe in Baker. I believe in Tampa at home. Lions at Detroit. I think that's Detroit all the way. Jets versus 49ers. If I'm going to stay true to my word, I'm going to take the Jets because I think Aaron Rodgers is that much better. They're soft. They're on the road.
We both took that large flyer. Garrett Wilson. They have talented players. Breece Hall.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I just think the 49ers team turmoil. I think that's what's going to happen. So, Is there a submit button here? Is there a submission button?
I was just going to ask you. I did this, but I don't. It says consider donating, but I don't know. Like I hit enter, but it didn't absorb it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there something we do to log these in?
No, I don't know. Not that I know of. But we just put them out in front of everybody on video, so we'll be able to go back and recreate it if we have to. Yeah.
Okay. And if we need to switch to another one that we can sign into that'll log it, I'm down to do that too. But yeah, it's fun to do these.
I'll go back to the league headline thing and the league. Main thing.
And maybe to make it more interesting, maybe add the spread. We might need to add the spread if we can, if that's an option to toggle.
Sure, we can do that. We can do picks.
Even when it's at blowout, we can say, well, they're getting 14 points, so and that's the whole point of Vegas. They want as many people betting on it as possible. Let me just add here as we wrap it up. CD has his work cut out for him. In game 1, says Treebeard, some of the best pass defenders in the league. You were damn straight about that. Ward, Emerson, and Newsome, not to mention Joker and Myles Garrett on the pass rush, causing mayhem over there. So, wow, I'm excited. It's the start of a new season, and I'm looking forward to. Mike, are we going to try to do this every Thursday at 5 p.m.?
So. Yeah, I think we should try to do this. Maybe make it a little shorter next time. Maybe make it a 1-hour show. Catch up on the news, review the week, go over our last picks, and then make new picks. But yeah, I'm down for that. I think it would be great. Let's do it every week.
You sound just like Blake Wally, trying to condense it and tighten it up, and I'm all for it. We'll work on it. I promise I will do my diligence to make it happen, says the boy Scott, raising his hand. So, Mike, tell people one more time the best places to find you, anything you want to plug on your way out the door.
It is no, not really. I mean, I've got there's the Alien event coming to Las Vegas, October 17th through 20th. Come on down. I'll be speaking there. I'll be talking about JFK and aliens and all kinds of cool stuff at the Alexis Park Resort, just off the strip in Las Vegas. Come on down for that on October. It's nice and cool in October, but you'll still see fetching ladies like Julia Kamen in the pool in their bathing suits with hardly any back on them. She did it last year. Look for that Alien event, and that is October 20th and 17th. Other than that, I will see you guys back on Monday for the Monday morning news and Gentile report, and that's what I got. I'm taking the rest of the weekend off to watch football.
Excellent. Enjoy it. Remind us again your X feed. As we cross-pollinate, how do people find you that aren't
Mike on Seahawk Boy Mike on Twitter X, Seahawk Boys TV on YouTube, and Seahawk Boys TV on Rumble. Or I will be uploading this video later.
Perfect. I appreciate you, Mike. To be continued. Go Seahawks, go Browns, allegedly, even though you picked against me. And
I picked, but I'm rooting. I can pick against your team and still root for them. I'll be rooting for your Browns.
I'll take that. I appreciate that, sir.
All right.
To be continued. We'll talk.